Hi everyone, this is Sunny and today I had come up with one more new session on SQL queries and interview questions. In today's session, I will explain how to find consecutive numbers. So let's understand this practically in SQL Server. For that, let's open SQL Server first. So here we have a table named as test2. Now let's try to fetch the data from this table using select statement. And how to execute the query, select the query and click on execute. You can see we have the below output from this table in which we have column as ID. So this table test2 have single column which is ID. So now let's understand the requirement here from this ID column. So what we need is consecutive number. We need the first consecutive number and the last consecutive number. So here from this ID column, the first consecutive number here is, it starts from 1, 2 and 3. After that there is a break. We don't have consecutive number 4. So the first consecutive number for the first row, it should be 1, 2, 3. Then the consecutive number starts from 6 to 7 because there is a break here after 7. So the next row, the first consecutive number should be 6 and then 7. After that we have the consecutive number starting from 9, 10, 11. So it should be 9 to 11. I am writing this so that you can understand this in a better way. So this is the output that we need. And now to achieve this, what we will use here? We will use here rank function. So what rank function does, it assigns rank to each row. So for this, if we will use here the rank function for this ID column, it will assign rank to each row that belongs to ID column. It adds one number to each row. Now here, if we have the first row, it is 1, so the rank here will be 1. Rank function, it starts from 1 by default. So for the next row, it should be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 because it adds one number to each row, as I said. So let's use this rank function. And then I will show you how we can use this rank function to get the output that I showed you. So the syntax to use the rank function is select, first we'll fetch the ID column and then rank function. If you are using the rank function, you have to use our clause, which is mandatory, and then order by ID because we had the column here ID, so I've used the ID column. Now here either you can give it descending order or ascending order. For now let's keep it as default, which is ascending order. Then we can use the alias name here for this output, group ID. Then from table name, what's table name here? It is test2. So alias is the, as we have used the group ID, which is the alias name, so it will be the column header, whatever the output we will get here from this rank function. So let's execute this now. As I said, see here, the group ID is the column header which we have used here as an alias. So you can change it, you can give any meaningful name, depends on the requirement what you need. You can either make it A, so it doesn't matter, it can be anything. So the column header will be A, but it is better to give group ID some meaningful name. Now what it has done, let me execute this one more time. Now it has assigns rank to each row, you can see here, and it is adding one number to each row. First it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is how rank function work. Now we have used the rank function. You will be thinking like how it will help to get this output. Now here, what we will do here, one more thing, we will id minus rank. We are subtracting rank, whatever we get here, the output from this rank function, we are subtracting that from id, the actual column that we have. Now if we subtract here, see what will happen here. 1 minus 1, so it will be 0. 2 minus 2, it will be again 0, and 3 minus 3, which will be 0, which means if the number is 0 and if it is not changing, if we get the difference which is same, that means the numbers are consecutive. Okay, and if we find a difference, then that breaks, and after that there is the next number is not consecutive. So we will understand, like if we are getting the same value, then those numbers are consecutive, and if there is a break, we don't get the difference same, which means that number is not consecutive. So here for the first 3 rows we get the same output, which is 0 after subtracting, and then we have 6 minus 4, which is 2. So the number breaks here, we will get the output as first and 3, the consecutive numbers starting first and 3. Then we have the consecutive number, which is 6 and 7. 6 minus 4, 2. 7 minus 5, 2. So we again get the same value for these 2 rows. So we get 6 and 7. And then we have 9, 11. So here you can find out like 9 minus 6, which is 3. 10 minus 7, which is 3. 11 minus 8, which is 3. So again, for these 3 rows, we have these numbers are consecutive because they are getting, when we are subtracting them, we are getting the same value, which is 3. So now let's execute this query to see the output. You can see now for the first 3 rows we get 0, which means these 3 numbers are consecutive, and the next 2 rows we get output as 2, we're getting the same values, so which means 6 and 7 are consecutive, and then we have 3, which means 9, 10, 11, which are consecutive. So we get this. Now what is next? Next is to store this output, and how we can store this output, these 2 columns. Should we insert this in a table? Is that a better option? No, because this is a temporary data. This is the output, but we don't need to store this somewhere to consume the space and to store this in a table. That's hectic and time consuming also, and so it's not a better option also. So now what we do here, if you need to store some data as a temporary basis, and then, because why do we want to store this data? Because we have to use this further, because still we don't get the output that is required. So we have to store this, and then we have to use this to get this output. Now you need this output and you have to store this somehow, and that we can do with common table expression, because we use common table expression store temporary data. So let's use the common table expression, and what is the syntax for that? Let us see. The syntax is with CTE as bracket start and then bracket end. Now here the CTE, common table expression, which is used to store temporary output, because if you are going to use that, you have to store somewhere. Now we can use this output in our further queries. Now here the name of the CTE is CTE. You can give the name, you can give any meaningful name, which depends on the requirement. Now what we need here is, we can give consecutive. So let's give it a name as consecutive, but you can give any meaningful name, depends on the requirement, as I said. Now if we execute this, will it work? Let's see. It will not work, because in CTE, if you are creating CTE, it's mandatory execute to fetch that CTE. What I mean is, like if you are creating CTE, but you are not using it. So it's mandatory to use the CT. If you will not use the CT, then it will not work, because then there is no fun. So it is logical also. So you have to use this, you have to fetch something from the CT. So let's try to fetch some data, and then I will show you will it work or not. So what output we have here? So we have two columns, ID and group ID. So now this output is stored in this consecutive, which is a CT name. Now if we try to use select ID from consecutive, so this consecutive is a CT name, it's not a table name. Now here we are not fetching data from a table. The table was test2, but here the consecutive we have not created it, we didn't define in a data type. This is just a CT name which we create here. Now as we have created CT, and as I said, we have to fetch data from the CT, then only it will work. So now we have to use here, we use here select query. So we use select query to fetch data from CT. So now let's try to execute this. Now here we are executing CT with a query as well. So let's see it will work or not. You can see now we get the output as below. But this is not our requirement. I was just trying to show you, like if we have to use the CT, you have to fetch data using select query from that CT, which we does here. Now we don't have to fetch the ID. What we have to do, let's execute this one more time. What we need here is we need 1 and 3. So 1 is the minimum value and 3 is the maximum value for the first 3 consecutive numbers. So we need that. Let's create a query in such a way that we will get this output. So we'll use minimum, which is a function which will give us the minimum value. What's the column name here? It is ID. As start number, we are using this alias name here, which will act as an column header. So start number, then comma, the next column should be max, and again the column name which is ID, and this will be end number from consecutive. So let's try now to execute this query and see we get this output or not. So let's execute this with CT and see the output. So what we are getting here, we are getting 1 and 11. The minimum value, so what it has given us, it has given us this 1, which is the minimum ID, and the maximum ID is 11. So it has given us this output. But is this our requirement? Maximum ID as end number from consecutive. So is this our requirement? No, this is not our requirement. Then how, what changes are needed here to achieve this output? We will use the group by clause. So let's execute this query, and then I will show you why we need group by clause here. We need the first and last number, the first and last consecutive number for the whole column, not for the first 3 rows. Okay, so we need for whole column, not for the first 3 rows. So for the first 3 rows, you can see here in the group ID, which we use as a rank, that now you will understand like why do we use rank function. For the first 3 rows, we have the value as 0, and for the next 2 rows, we have 2. So we can use here group by clause. Now what group by does, it groups rows that have the same value. So it will group these 3 rows to a single value which is 0. And then for the next 3 rows, next 2 rows, it will group as 2, and for the next 3 rows, it will group this as 3. So we will have 3, 0, 2, 2 and 3, and then here from these first 3 which it is doing the group by, the first minimum value will be 1 and the max value will be 3. And for the next 2 rows which it will do the group by, the minimum value will be 6 and the maximum will be 7. And then for these 3 rows which we use a group by, the minimum value will be 9 and the maximum value will be 11. So by this way we will get our output. So let's see it will work or not. Group by, so this spelling mistake, it is group by group ID, which we have given the name here for this output. So we are using the same group by group ID here, the column header here. Now let's execute this one more time and see we get the expected output or not. You can see now the first number which is 1 and the end number is 3. So this is this one. Then 6, the consecutive number starts from 6 to 7. And then the consecutive number starts from 9 to 11. So this is how it works. So in this query we have learned how to use rank, how to find the consecutive numbers, how to use the minimum and maximum function, how to use CT, which is common table expression. So this is the output that you have seen. So that was it for today's session. I hope you have understood. We'll come up with the next session shortly. Till then, have a nice day. Bye bye. Take care. Be healthy, be safe, and love your family. Bye bye.